All right, now while this is setting up, what we want to do at this point is we want to sketch in the location of our palm tree. So we're going to take our soft vine charcoal. Now remember, whenever you're working on a dry painting, use soft vine charcoal. This is number 2. See, it's that real skinny stick of charcoal there. It's easy to move around. What you're going to do now is you're going to lay in, remember our original sketch last week, I had these palm trees coming in this way. I'm doing all this from memory, folks, because I just wanted to make it fun and fresh. So I'm going to sketch in here a palm tree that's leaning like this. And we'll probably have another one that's coming in from the side over here. And, you know, they kind of bell out at the base here. And we'll probably have some little grasses and then a shadow cast on the ground over here or whatever. They kind of bend with the wind, you know, kind of let that kind of hook back around there. And then over here we're going to have the tall, those sea oats, you know, those grasses that you see along the edge of the water. Sometimes those are fun. All right, now I want to come up here and I'm going to kind of lay out where these fronds go. Now remember, folks, artists generally paint things that they're familiar with where they live. I think it was Andrew Wyeth that said, many of you know the famous artist. I'm in Chadsworth, Pennsylvania. I think he's the one that said, you know, an artist could really paint for a lifetime within a 50-mile radius of their home. If you understand composition, design, and perspective, you know, you can paint anything. You know, you don't have to be all around the world. I'm not having anything against that, but you know, most people paint more what they're familiar with. So keep in mind, I'm not an ocean expert, but I understand the concept of composition, design, perspective, and all those things. So there's going to be my basic layout of my palm trees. They're going to be hanging out over here like that. We'll probably cast some little shadows coming in on the ground through here like this, which will kind of give it just a little bit more interest. And then I want to lay out maybe some little sailboats. Now this would be the part that I think would be fun for you to be thinking about. So I'm just going to put in a few sails back in here. Real simple little, maybe there's, you know how you've seen maybe a whole bunch of sailboats in the distance off in a big lake or an ocean scene. That's kind of fun to just think about that. Maybe we'll have one coming in over here. Now I'll study these. I'm not sure I'm going to put them all in there, but I'll study them a little bit and see if that's something I want to do. And let's stand back and look at that. I think that'll be kind of fun. All right, now while we're letting some of this kind of soak into our mind, we're going to go ahead and lay out the trunks on these palm trees. Now this is going to be fun. You're going to like this little technique. What you want to do is take your hake brush or your hockey brush or your hakey brush, or, you know, it's got so many names. That's the soft goat hair brush that we use for a lot of backgrounds, but we also use it for painting, believe it or not, straight objects like fence posts or tree trunks, for instance. Now, what you're going to do is you take your brush. We're going to take a little bit of burnt sienna here. Just find a nice spot on your dirty palette here, which most of you probably don't have one that's this dirty. I got a little too much moisture in there. We're going to start with burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. And you get a pretty deep color. You get a little purple to it if you want there. Sometimes that's a nice thing. Let's test this here. So there's a nice deep brownish, kind of a little bit of a grayish tint. What you do is you take your brush and you turn it sideways like this, see, and you sweep it across like this. See if I can hold this back where you can see this a little better. So you just want to kind of go through here and take your brush sideways. This will form the main trunk structure. We'll come back and work on this some more. I'll go to this one over here. It's going to kind of lean in a little bit more. This is great. Now the reason for this, folks, you're probably wondering, most of you, if you're brand new artists, will probably think, well, how come you didn't just take a brush and make a straight line? Well, folks, that's the whole reason. That's exactly what it does. It makes a perfectly hard straight line, and that's what we don't want to do. We want this soft, more of a fuzzy edge. You know, these palm trees have a pretty rough bark. And so this kind of helps suggest that just a little bit. Okay, so now there's the basic layout of the palm trees, okay? And that's all you need for the moment. All right, now the next step here is to create a deep green mixture for the fronds, the big things that hang out. We're going to take our Hooker's green. Now I've already got a pile here, but I'm going to rebuild this. Hooker's green, and I want to specifically help you with this formula. About 1/4 as much burnt sienna and about 1/4 as much dioxazine purple. Now what the purple does, folks, is it kills it from being so green. It makes it a nice, deep, kind of that foresty green. And so I'm going to put just a little bit of purple in there. And mix all that together. This is kind of my base color. Now all these formulas are in all of my books, folks. So again, if you've got the books or our tapes, well, you can refer back to refresh your memory. All right, now see that nice deep, it's kind of an army green color actually. All right, now then, this is going to get pretty exciting here. Now you want that nice and creamy, so I'm going to add some water to it. Kind of thin it up a little bit. You want so it'll slide easy. The important thing here is that it slides easily. Okay, now go back to your hake brush, rinse it out good. Now what we're going to do here is you want a nice chisel edge to your hake brush. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of paper up here that I can kind of work off of. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use your hake brush here to put these fronds on here. It's really, this is just phase one. Okay, I'm going to set this down where I have a little better view of this. By the way, I might mention to you that when you're painting, it's a good idea to have yourself at sort of eye level at the center of your painting. So whatever height you are, you should be about eye level or thereabouts. All right, now you're going to take your brush and you take the dark green mixture, an even distribution across the end. Make sure that it is, in fact, that. Nice and creamy. Now, this is kind of scary for those of you that have never done this before, but all you do is you just make a line like that, okay? And when you do that, you're going to do several of these, and then we come back and highlight them. We probably won't get to that till next week, but you bring out your line like that, and then you take your brush and you swish down like this. See how I'm doing that? And that creates that little effect. Well, you want that to be nice and creamy. And now what you're going to do is just kind of go through there and you just start building these little, see how you just build these little movements out here like this? It's really fascinating how this all gets done. Now what's hard for most of you is getting this look that they're bent. So you can kind of put some little individual ones in there like that. See, just this hake brush is amazing. You can do so much with it. Just kind of turn it on its chisel and it makes those real fine, sharp, chisel-y edges. Now see, the key to this is a lot of overlap too as well, folks. So now, and the reason I'm going ahead and doing this, because I want to see how much sky is left. Remember last week I mentioned that we may add some puffy clouds if we need them, and I'm not so sure that we do. I think I may put a little highlight through here, a little highlight on the edge of these clouds, but this tells me a little bit more about what we have to do. Now you just want to build a little mass up in here like this. This is pretty solid right in through here. And then as you come to the other side, so you just go this way. And then you pull it down like this. And then this will be some foreshortened stuff that see comes down in this area. And then a little bit will come in there and we'll highlight that. And you'll be amazed how this looks so dimensional. So you make these little bent ones. That's part of the fun of this. And the excitement in learning to be an artist is being able to learn how to take your brushes, manipulate them to do whatever you want them to do. So you might want to have some bent over like that. Because most likely they are. You know, when you have a wind-swept area like this, it's pretty likely that you're going to have that. Now remember, we're going to highlight these next week, so all you want is to create the solid mass right now, and then next week when we highlight this, it will change dramatically because we'll highlight these and it'll separate the fronds out. Now you want some of these to run right on off the canvas, you guys. That's very important. Now you get back to this compositional issue, and we know that the trunk's going to come right on up in through here. And I kind of darken that with that green right there. So if the trunk goes right on up in there. Now, we're going to let that one set for now. I'm not saying we're done with it, but we're done enough for the moment. We'll go to the next one. And we want this one maybe to overlap this one, you know, just for the purpose of you know, just composition, basically. Then again, we may change our mind. We may decide to put it behind, and all we'll do when we do that is just rebuild our trunk right in front of that one. So after we put this in here, I'm going to see what looks best, because it's a real simple fix. Since we haven't finished the trunks yet, when we get ready to finish those trunks, then we'll know how to go about finishing the rest of this one. But at any rate, you'll still have some of the fronds, the overlapping behind like that. And the beauty of this kind of stuff, folks, is it's all so easy to go back and work and rework and just have so much fun with. It's just an exciting adventure. Boy, being an artist is so neat because you can be anywhere in the world on any given day and never have to get on a plane. Especially nowadays, that's sometimes a lot more exciting to be able to just be home, pick up your paintbrush and paint wherever you want to be. And what I'm doing here again is kind of structuring my trunk so that it kind of has a little better fit to the mass of the trunk of the leaves there. And we will come down and highlight this, and you, of course, you know, if these are the coconut palms, I don't know, there might be, you might want to put some of those up in there. I want to get a little more off the edge over here. And then, of course, I will study this, and between now and our next program, and you will probably too, I will analyze this and see if there's a few things I want to do to make this, you know, a little better, maybe make a little more mass here and there or whatever. But the important thing is that you're happy with it. And see all this overlap. Boy, when you stand back and look at that, it looks really cool. Okay. Clean this up a little here. All right, now we're cooking. Yeah, I can kind of live with that. Now, with that in mind, we'll probably end up now darkening our trunks just a little bit. So you can take the same brush, take a little blue and brown, and I'm going to darken my trunks. Now remember, don't make that straight edge. You still want to have this little blurred edge. Now that's, so you're going to paint sideways or horizontally, so to speak. That'll give you the opportunity to keep those edges a little bit rough. And now what we're going to do next week, folks, because we're about to run out of time, we're going to put the shadows on the ground, highlight our fronds up here, put our boats in there, our seaweeds, finish a little work on the sand, then some of it we're just going to leave up to you. Remember, this is a you painting. This is something you may go and research a little bit in some magazines or some books and find some subjects that you like to put in yours. You might want to put a little, you know, a beach scene where you have somebody sitting in a beach chair, taking a suntan, whatever. You can do anything you want to with this. Now, then we have this. Now, this will have a highlight on the edge, and we'll do that next time when we're finishing up the details. And then this will be good and dry, and we'll put the highlights on there. Now, we left off last week. We were working on our palm trees. I just kind of piddling with some of the odds and ends here, trying to get the trunks in and everything. Between last session and this session, I've added a few little distant sailboats floating off in here. I'm going to go ahead and finish up a couple here in a little bit. But I want to go ahead and get on with our trees and our sand and our weeds and just a few more things in here to kind of finish this up so you can see it develop here. Now, one of the things we have to decide, and we haven't decided that yet, is where our sun's coming from. So let's talk about this for a minute. Remember, this is a compositional thing. I'm not using any reference material. These are things I've just made up in my head from places I've been and things I've seen, and you can do the same thing. What I want to do is, if we have the sun coming in from this way, from the right, we could cast a nice deep shadow on the ground. So I'm taking my soft fine charcoal, and I'm just going to kind of do this. This is a test to see if I like the idea of having this shadow here. Now what that means, folks, is that the sun would have to come this way, all right? I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I'm almost convinced that might be a good thing to do because it makes this painting have a lot more character. So see, you have your trunks that come across here, and then you get into the darkness of the fronds here on the ground here. I just want to see compositionally if this is a good thing or not. Okay, I kind of like the idea with the shadows coming in this way. And then we have our little sea oats coming up here on this corner like this. Kind of help fill that corner and come up and break up this side as our eye stopper. So see, your eye will flow down, hit these, come hit these, and bounce back up towards your sailboat. So you create this sort of triangle-shaped composition. So let's just go ahead and suggest that the sun's coming in from the right-hand side. Now, this brings up this question every time. I can just see the letters coming now, but your light spots back here, folks, that's only where the sun's kind of sitting. That doesn't mean the sun's there. It could be over here. It could be way over here. All right, so if I put a specific sun there, then you're locked into the sun being behind, and that would be a backlit painting. But we can choose now, before we go any further, where we want our sun to actually be coming from. And it looks like this is the best arrangement. So on the right-hand side of our tree here, we're going to go ahead and highlight that. So let's take our number 6 bristle brush or number 4 bristle brush. Either one's fine. By the way, if you're joining us for the first time and you need to know what materials we're using, please pick up your phone and call our 800 number. We'll be glad to send you a list. Now, take a little bit of gesso or the white, a little touch of orange, and that's generally what I'm going to use. And just kind of, I'm going to scoot this down here where I can see this a little better. Now you come along the edge here like this, and see I'm kind of pulling in. I want to make that just a little stronger. Just pull in like this. Now don't paint down. I mean, you can add a few little downward strokes here and there, but where most of us get in trouble is we have a tendency to paint down too much, and then we create a hard line. So I'm just kind of pull across, kind of dab like this. See how it creates that little texture effect like a palm tree has? That's just the white and the orange. That's all that is. Just kind of quickly want to lay that in there. Now be sure you get right out to the edge. Don't leave any of your dark showing on that, or it'll look like someone took a marker and outlined it there, and we certainly don't want that. See, I'm kind of, and then you can take your finger if you want to kind of blur it and blend it just a little bit, but you want this nice, soft, warm highlight right on this edge here. There's so much to learn. Remember last week we used our toothbrush to splatter the sand. That was a lot of fun. You can still do more of that, folks. I haven't done any more, but I probably will when I finish this up on my own time. I'll add a few more highlights and things. It's okay to have a few little streaks showing, because remember these palm trees do have a little bit of a roundness to them. That bark it's really rough. And come out and hit this one. If you get the paint too wet, it doesn't slide around very well. So that's why you see me changing this around sometimes, because I have to get that little texture. There we go. And sometimes you want the color to be different, you know. Sometimes you want it to be a little more orange or a little more white. That's a good thing, using your finger to sort of soften colors. Now, you don't have to do that all the time, but it's good to do that from time to time. Okay, so that gives those a nice highlight. Now, up on the fronds up here, you can see I've done a little bit already. What you want to do there is you can just take your same brush, rinse this out, and you go down here and take a little bit of white, a little bit of phthalo yellow green, and get this Again, kind of nice and just very creamy, not soupy, but creamy. And you can add any of the highlight colors you want. You can add a little orange to it. It's kind of a yellowish green, kind of a muckledy color. See, I'm flattening my brush out here. And all you want to do now is you just take your brush like this and you just whip it like this. See, just like that. And that creates those little, just a few little highlights within the fronds. You don't have to do too much because I kind of like the silhouetted effect of these against the sky. I think they look really cool. But I think a few little highlights here and there help give this just a little dimension, and probably wouldn't hurt to play with this some, you know, now and then on your own. But just get a few, because we've got to remember, you're the artist, and we really don't know exactly where all the light's going to be hitting here. So it's a little unfair for me to try to convince you that it's got to do a certain thing, because frankly, I don't really know. The light's just hitting and it's going to bounce around. So the beauty of being an artist, you get to use your license to sort of suggest. And remember, that's all an artist does anyway, folks, is we're just suggestions. We just create suggestions of things. Too often as a beginning artist, we don't realize that your responsibility is only to get the eye started looking at something, but the human eye is smart enough, folks, to figure out what's going on. All your job is to get it started on an object going round or sideways or whatever you're trying to do to it. But the human eye is very easily persuaded. It'll follow whatever you start. So just by having a few little highlights here, you don't have to do much else with it. Now, does that mean you have to be done with it right now? No, but that's all I need for the moment. I'm very pleased with that. Now let's set this back up here. Now I'm going to blow off the excess charcoal dust, or you can lightly feather it off with a dry brush if you have one. You just don't want to get too much charcoal on there. It's okay to get some. Now we're going to dry brush in a shadow. Now this is a little challenging. So you've learned a lot of things in this painting, and one of these is how to lay the shadow where it looks like it's part of the ground. Now the color we're going to use is right here. You're going to take a little gesso, a little purple. Remember, purple is your natural shadow color. A little burnt sienna, a touch of green. Yes, green will kind of gray that out. See how it creates a nice grayish, kind of a purplish gray. Now we want to test. I don't think this is dark enough, but we'll see. Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Now what you want to do is you take your brush and you kind of smush like this, sideways. Because you want a real soft shadow. And we're going to probably put some grasses in there. See how it's nice and soft? Now let's pull back and take a look at that. Yeah, I kind of like that nice soft shadow being cast in there. See how cool that looks? Same thing here. The secret to this is this sideways stroke. Keeps it parallel to the canvas. Just kind of darken this corner because it's all going to be from those the leaves up there. Now this doesn't have to be an exact anything, just suggestive once again. Yeah, I think that we can pretty much live with this. What I like about this, folks, is that it helps to darken the corner here so that your eye will kind of not just go all the way off. See, that's a great eye stopper right there. All right, now then, well, that's kind of drying for a minute. Let's take our number, I was using the number 4. Now we're going to go to the number 6 bristle brush. And the same dark green mixture that we used on the fronds last week, this is that hooker's green mixture with a little purple and burnt sienna in it to create that sort of a deep army green. We'll take some of that, mix it right in this area you were working right here, which kind of lightens it and grays it, get some of the water out. And we're going to flip up some grasses right at the base of this tree right here like this. And what this does is it does two things. First of all, it looks good, it's interesting, but it seats the tree. It settles it down and kind of helps us to see where we're headed with the shadow, because you can't just have that sticking out. You always have a little debris, something at the base of your trees. It could be even broken limbs, it could be anything. But see, it's a good idea to get some of this taller grass at the base, and that kind of settles that down in there. It looks good. Now while you're here and you've got this color on your brush, you can add a little of this green to it, thin it down a little soupier, and we'll pull out a few more little weeds and things. And then it's just a matter of you going through, folks, and detailing. You can splatter with more toothbrush. If you want some more color on the beach, like some orange and white might not be a bad idea to give it just a little more warmth. But now I'm going to come in like this, and I'm going to put a few weeds coming up like this against my palm trees here. This kind of helps to settle them down once again, adds a little more interest to it. I think that's kind of cool looking, and helps pull your eye back in. Now, the other thing you might want to consider, folks, and this is just up to you guys, once again, is just these final little highlights and things. And one of the things that I might suggest is you take this brush and you take pure phthalo yellow green, and where you might want to have some of these fronds just a little bit more detailed, you can just come in here like this and just put some nice, quick little, see like this one is in front. See, I'm pulling out these lines like this. And that will give you the ability to see a few individual fronds without having to detail them all. And you don't have to, folks. Just put some to create a little contrast. It's really effective. And by golly, we're running out of time. I'd like to have a little more time here, but we're just not going to be able to do it. So what I want you to do is just have fun finishing this up. Use all the things we've learned over the last few years. And again, don't hesitate to give us a call if we can answer any of your questions, and we'll be glad to work with you. Well, next time we're going to start a brand new painting. It's going to be an exciting adventure. So I hope you'll be able to join us. Keep up the good work. I'd love to hear from you. So God bless you. Stay inspired. Keep painting. And I promise to see you right here real soon on another Yarnell School of Fine Art.